Good evening. Welcome to the South Haven Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, December 2nd. I'll call the meeting to order. Marcia, if you'd please call the roll.
Clark Gruber, Larry Heinig, Todd Heinrich,
Here.
Michael Neese,
Here.
Amy Nichols, Lygie Hanny,
Here.
George Sleeper,
Here.
Janice Varney,
Here.
Tim Stegman.
Here. Next item is the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the movement of item 7 from old business to new business.
I second.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we'll have the approval of the meeting minutes for November 4th.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of November 4th.
A second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the November 4th regular meeting minutes. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 5. Interested citizens will be heard on items not on this agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak? State your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
Right, Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I'd like to talk about Trailside Phase 2, if I'm allowed to. I'd like, first of all, to submit a picture of what our storm drainage pond looks like right now. They're talking about that being open space area. Right now, we have the drain coming through that the city fixed up for us, and usually that thing's full of cattails and weeds. We just recently had it cut down and everything, so that it's actually serviceable and has the right amount of storage in it right now. So I'm going to submit that, and this is what they're using on Trailside Phase 2 for open space. And I don't know how that can be. You're only allowed to have 20% of your, it's called a wetland. That pond's going to be open filled with water for a long time. So I would think you guys, and the staff has requested that you take a look at that they delineate how much of that is open space in Phase 2. And I don't think that you can take any credit for Phase 1 because they took all our open space away from, a lot of it on the 4 houses that they put, I call them the skyscrapers on Elkenberg. They took part of that away. They took almost half or 3/4 of the open space away from us between Cable and Able, where they put in, they let them put in fire pits. They extended 2 of the shared driveways into the open space. And so as a result of that, we lost of open space. And on Phase 2, there's very little open space. I'd like to just submit this as part of the record. Also, I'd like to have you support the 3 recommendations that the council made, or the council made to you. But I'd like to have you modify number 2 for the parking, because what could happen is those duplexes, I think Brad and Tim and Dane are thinking about 2-bedroom duplexes. I haven't seen the plans yet, but all they have to do is put 2 bedrooms in the basement, and that's 4 bedrooms, and you're only making them have 2 parking spaces. They should be using the same rule that we're going to put, hope you're going to apply to the single family, where anything over 3 bedrooms, you have to have an additional parking space. So in that case, for the duplex, if they had 4, they'd have to have 3 parking spaces. And right now, there's no way they're going to get 4 parking spaces in there unless they modify their plans. So I would hope that you would take a hard look at the open space and approve the council's recommendations with a modification of the duplexes. Those should have the same rules that single stories do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just as a reminder, this was a time for items not on this agenda. So,
I understand, Ben, but last time the city council recommended that you get public input. What happened is they changed the entire arrangement.
okay.
The full amendment was.
We're going to get to that in the next item, and I wasn't here last month, so my
Right.
vice chair ran the meeting, so probably,
But the rule says the full amendment, once they get the full amendment in there, then you can comment on it. They changed the design. You also, they changed half the design, but putting duplexes in.
we'll get to it.
And there was no public comment, okay? Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to old business. which is item 6. It's a request for an amended motion for the trailside at Everett Park Phase 2 development. And Brad, do you want
Yeah,
to?
thank you. The reason we have brought this back is because we, staff and city attorney have suggested that even though the motion was approved for the Everett Park Trailside Phase 2 last month, it was not clearly stated in the motion with regard to delineation of green space, number of parking spaces per unit, items like that that are outlined in the report. So what staff is requesting today is that a motion be amended, or the motion be amended to actually state out what those items should be.
Okay, does the commission have any questions?
One moment. I'd like to talk about I don't know if we're going to re-review this whole thing. It's been presented as though the entire thing is set for review, but the recommendations, this is something I probably should have talked to you about this afternoon, Brad, when we talked. Mr. Agnello just brought up parking. Are we opening up this whole thing, or are we just looking at the?
Well, they're looking for a motion to amend to add more detail
Right.
to what you guys did last month.
Right.
And
Okay.
parking is one of the 3 specific areas that's up for clarification.
Are we looking for 3 separate amendments then on each of these items?
I think you could adopt a single, if you agree with these recommendations, you could adopt a single motion to accept all recommendations in the memo. If you need to break them down individually, you could do that as well.
How do you wish to proceed? Do you want to take them one at a time, or?
I personally, I'm willing to go with the staff recommendation as a total. We
Okay.
spent quite a bit of time on this in the last meeting.
And if I can clarify, staff's recommendation is based on what our understanding of the Planning Commission's intent was at the previous meeting. We're just looking to clarify and set out the motion in more detail than was made at the last meeting.
Right. And as you know, I wasn't here last month, but I did read the minutes, and what staff has as a recommendation seems in line with the minutes I've read, but you guys would know better because you were in the discussion, so I don't really have a lot to add.
Well, I agree with Mike. The staff did a lot of work to really get in line with what we spoke about and what we talked about and what we wanted to be communicated in this. So I think we should move forward with the staff recommendations.
I also was pleased to see that some of the recommendations on parking were included and the clarification, because I was unsure how that was going to come down too. So I think it speaks to the concern the gentleman has, and also clarifies, at least for this portion that we're talking about right now, about off-street parking spaces.
Anything, Todd?
No, it's just something Mr. Agnello, is that it? Mentioned, and that was that when we opened this up, I'm not sure if we followed the rules precisely or not with regard to inviting public comment during the process. And I honestly, until, I started looking at this again and saw Mr. Agnello here again, I was wondering if we should formally look at opinions, public opinion, even though we didn't advertise it.
Right.
Just, that's up to you, Mr.
Todd,
Chairman.
I could support that only to get the certainty that it meets our intent. Because I think we were clear on our intent. I think it got lost in our discussion.
Yeah,
And the intent was not to grant the developer's request, but to treat it as it was originally zoned. for
Right.
parking.
Okay, so what we have in front of us, everybody's in line with, from the last meeting, this language works, and we don't need to change anything at this moment, right?
No.
Okay, so now, we'll just take a break, and if anybody from the audience wishes to comment on this project, now would be the time. Come up to the podium, state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes. Okay, nobody's here for that. So unless there's further questions, let's entertain a motion, and then we can discuss the motion. This is for the trail side at Everett Park Phase 2 development to amend the motion made last month.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
If it helps ease any of the Planning Commission's concerns, there will be additional opportunity for public comment on this topic at the City Council level as well.
Right.
There would be, if moved forward and clarified by the Planning Commission, it would be considered at least 2 City Council meetings, introduced at one, and then a public hearing, and presumably consideration at a second. So if there is additional concern about opportunity for public comment, there will be at least 2 other opportunities.
I'll try a motion here.
Okay.
I would move that the Planning Commission approve the proposed Phase 2 amendment with the conditions on page 21 of our board packet, numbered 1 through 5 inclusive, for approval. Is that not?
No, I'm wondering if that's from the November 4th meeting?
Yes, I was just going
So,
to say
yeah, I
that,
think
that
we have
actually
to-
is
So
a
I'm-
staff report from last month's meeting,
Yeah.
and some of those items had been addressed in that. So these are the ones primarily that were not addressed.
I'm
at
glad
that
I used the
meeting.
page number, because I ignored the page number that was in front of me. Thank you.
I
I
think the wording
withdraw
was-
my motion.
I think the wording was okay, Todd, except that it's 1 through 3, not 1 through 5.
On
Cool.
page 8.
All right.
Want to try
Page.
that again?
Yeah, page, I'd like to read it. I had made a notation on page, and, one moment. My notes are incorrect.
It's tough business being up here. Just out of curiosity, Mike, did you have a similar motion ready to go?
I've withdrawn my motion, so anybody else wants to pick up the bat?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. I mean, the intent here is to amend, I make a motion that we amend our previous approval by including the clarifications as stated on page 8, items 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Is there support?
I support.
It's been moved and supported. Now, is there further discussion?
And once again, we are recommending approval to City Council for this. Yep.
Right. With some more specific language in
Yep.
the amendment. It was too broad before. No further discussion? Okay. Out of curiosity, was it a roll call vote last time?
It was not.
Wasn't it?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, so we'll just, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next item, new business, M140 rezoning request along with a public hearing.
Do we do the Harbor Club one next?
Oh, yep, sorry. I dropped that one all the way down. Let's go ahead and do that above. So Harbor Club PUD amendment. Is that Brad?
Yes. Mr. Scott Sinar, who is the owner of the development firm who is constructing the Harbor Club condominiums up off of Baseline Road in Kentucky, has requested that a PUD amendment be made. It is not a minor amendment, it's a major amendment, so it does have to come before Planning Commission and City Council for approval. The amendment is specifically to remove units 147, 148, 149, and 150, which are located at the very terminal end of Ravine Lane, and it's outlined on the maps that are included. And these 4 units, they would like to remove them, and in the place of those units, construct a swimming pool, the community pool. So it was being relocated from a different location on site to this location.
Okay. Could we get page 39 up on the screen? The wizard has spoken.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Yes.
Don't goof it up, Griffin.
Right.
He's good at his job.
And who's here to speak for,
Mr.
This
Sinar,
project.
from what I was told yesterday when I spoke with him on the phone, has been exposed to COVID, so he is home.
Okay.
But he is having Greg Wykamp from Edgewater Resources come up here and speak about it. He is the designer of the project.
Okay.
And also, Tony is here, also Anthony is here. He is actually the site manager.
Yeah.
For the company.
okay. Now, while we're waiting for that, does anybody have any immediate questions on the commission?
I have one question. When did the public notice go out to the surrounding properties?
The public notice, from what we have in the packet, was, do you have that date, Griffin, on hand?
I can pull it up. I have the notice.
I'm pulling it up. Usually Travis plates it in the packet itself.
It was in the Herald Palladium on November 17th.
They would have both been issued the same day.
The same day?
From the office, so typically they're released on Thursday. The mailings would have went out that day, and it would have been published the following Sunday, so
Right,
4
but
days later.
This one was different because of the timing, the tight timeline. It was on a Wednesday in the Herald Palladium
Okay,
is when
thank
the
you.
newspaper notice was out. And that was sent to the Herald Palladium on Monday, the 15th. So the notices would have been mailed out on the same day.
Okay, thank you.
Page 39, or 38, excuse me.
So Ravine Lane is the road, the far road over on the west side of the development that runs north-south. Initially, there are 4 units that are outlined at the very base of that road. And, okay, thank you. There we go. There are 4 units that lie in this direction on an angle, according to the originally approved site plan. There are also condominiums up along Ash Street here. What the developer is proposing on doing is removing those 4 units and constructing the pool here in their place. They are not proposing to relocate them at this time, but they wanted it to be known that this is something that they would like to use those 4 units, possibly at some other location on the development and at a future date. However, they are not proposing a site for those right now.
Okay, in the original PUD, if I remember correctly, this part of the clubhouse pool was supposed to be across the street, like kitty corner, is that right?
From what I understand, it was in this area over here. And what they're attempting to do is move it so it has access off a ravine instead of off of this road here.
And what's currently on the prior proposed site for this clubhouse and pool, or is that vacant?
What do you mean? There is a proposed, in the original plan, there's a proposed clubhouse here on the corner.
Uh-huh,
And then the pool was intended to go along here,
okay,
this general area. And they would like to move it in the location of these units that are over in this direction off of Ravine. And then eventually, sometime in the future, replace them somewhere else.
okay, very good. And just as a reminder, the commission, this came today as an email. So hopefully you read that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I might ask Brad. Brad, can you, with the marker there, with the highlighter, show me the property line?
The property line itself?
Yeah,
runs north-south here along.
It's really close to that ravine.
West side, there is, this is private property over here, and there is a home here and a home here. This is all woods along this area, but it is privately owned. There is a fence that separates this residential lot here from the development, and then this is all wooded up and down this. There is a required tree line that is there, and it has to stay there.
And that tree line is on their property, or?
The tree line, from what I understand, the property owner is actually here, but the tree line, from what I understand, those are his trees. Those are not the development's trees. However, they're required to maintain that they do not damage or remove those.
So with the request to move the pool where it is, does it move it closer to that property owner's property?
The pool would be, sorry. The pool would technically move from this street to this street.
Okay.
If I lost my packet, but they do have actual designs of it that show how the pool would be laid out and the parking area that they're proposing along there.
Well, let's go to the next one, page 39.
I have a question here.
Okay.
Brad, until you mentioned it just now, I had not noticed that the new location is over I see 2 or 3 building sites that are on a diagonal.
Correct.
So they're giving up 2 or 3 there?
From what I understand, these sites here, there's 4 of them that run here, and there is a parking lot area. It's just south of this site on the original plan, where the parking was intended to house the cars for these residences.
Okay.
What they intend to do is remove this with a master deed amendment, remove these units from this location, those 4 units, therefore allowing an area to construct the pool and create it as a common element on the site. And then someday in the future, they don't know where, but someday in the future, they would like to retain those 4 units and place them someplace else on the overall large development.
Okay.
Or have the ability to.
The 4 that are on Ash Street, those remain as
Those
buildable?
are remaining, yes.
Buildable lots.
Those are buildable lots, and there is a proposed clubhouse here on the corner.
Okay, thank you.
And that clubhouse is from the original plan.
All right, does anybody else have
I
a,
just have one question. Do you think there, and maybe the person who's going to speak about this development will know, will Ravine Lane be extended, or does it, I noticed when I went out there, it stops at a certain point, so I was
Yeah,
just
it's-
wondering if it's going to be extended.
I don't think it can be.
Yes, from what the design is they're planning on putting a parking area along here to accommodate vehicles that do travel into this area, but I do not believe they're intending to expand it further because there's a ravine down there. So, and the land slopes off.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it drops off right there. All right, so unless you have any pertinent questions for staff, I'll ask the developer to,
Just one more, this may be a question of what would happen. So if the developer does decide those diagonal properties that are getting used up, if they were to relocate those developments to another part of the PUD, would that relocation have to get approved by planning commission?
Correct,
Okay.
it would.
All right.
okay?
Yep.
All right, would the developer's representative like to speak about this project? And possibly answer some additional questions?
I do think we could. I do have Scott by phone. I think when we had talked to Brad, he said that would be okay because he was unable to attend. And my name's Anthony Lafredo, representative of Harbor Club Development for this project.
Okay.
Don't do I just keep talking?
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys had questions.
If you want
or-
to say anything additional that you think's been missed so far.
Yeah, Scott, did you want to take the floor, and did you have any comments?
Can they hear me?
I think they could hear you.
I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I was exposed to COVID. I wanted to clarify one thing that was said already. The location of the pool and the clubhouse were on the other side of Preserve Drive a number of years ago. There was a PUD amendment done approximately 10 years ago where some of the lots were reconfigured and the pool and the clubhouse were shifted to the other side of Preserve. So what's really happening now is the pool had never really been laid out or designed. It was literally just kind of a picture next to the clubhouse. So we worked with the pool design company, Blue Water Pools, and the homeowners association, came up with the pool design, and now we have a full design, which we didn't have before. It's located in the general area it was in the previous PUD amendment. However, it now kind of extends perpendicular to the clubhouse, and we are also currently not proposing to build the clubhouse. So under Michigan law, we're required to have a bathhouse. So that was the other thing that wasn't mentioned. So the bathhouse is now located on the western end of the pool. The other thing which I guess should be clarified is that at the end of Ravine, during a previous PUD amendment to realign a number of lots approximately 4 to 5 years ago, the city requested that a parking area be designated for the future when certain phases get done. So that is why we are currently requesting to remove the lots, because that's in that parking area.
Okay. All right. Was that it, Scott?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. One question for you while we have you on the line. Is there an HOA for this development?
Yes, there is.
Yes, there's the Preserve at Warren Harbor Condominium Association, and the pool, bathhouse, et cetera, including budget, have all been approved by the homeowners association.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
We have approximately, I think, 60 owners right now in the development, beyond the lots owned by the development partnership.
Okay, very good, thank you. Anybody else on the commission have any questions?
I just wanted to get a clarification. Did he say, I didn't hear it that well, that a clubhouse was no longer a part of the plan?
Yeah, I think what was submitted at this point was a bathhouse, not the full clubhouse at this time.
So the bathhouse is what is marked on there as the shed? And then, so that's open space on the other side of those 4 developments, 4 homes? So, because
Scott, did you
earlier
hear
we
that
pointed to
question?
the.
Is what was on that diagram pool shed, that is the location of the bathhouse, right? Yeah, you see it on here.
To the west end of the pool.
Yeah, okay.
Now there it says pool bathhouse.
So the clubhouse is no longer going to be on the corner?
No, the clubhouse would at some point be built when the association is ready on the corner.
Gotcha.
But in the absence of a clubhouse with bathroom facilities, Michigan law requires that you have a bathhouse for the pool.
That's for a future phase.
Okay,
We would look
thank
to
you.
Put it there.
I have a question about the engineer approval, on this engineering approval, especially for the sewer and the water and the drainage. Has that been done yet, or is that expected to be done?
That's something Greg Wykamp probably could answer.
He
Greg,
could definitely answer that better than I can. Greg is not here tonight. I really hate to ask, would you mind repeating that question?
The engineering piece of that to determine the sewer, the water, and the drainage. I was wondering if that has been accomplished yet, or is
Question was
that going to
from
be
the
accomplished?
engineering standpoint of water, sewer, drainage, have that been performed at this point?
Well, as part of the process, separate from the PUD, the pool company went in to get a permit from city staff, and those issues are determined at that level. But the site has has storm drainage, has utilities surrounded all around. So what we anticipate is that there'll be a connection for sewer and water to cover the pool and bathhouse. Storm drainage is already in existence for the project, and the pool and bathhouse would not need any additional storm drainage.
So I've answered that.
Any other questions? Well, we have them up here and on the line.
Yeah, I do, if you'll
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
if you forgive me for a moment. I need the history one more time. If I understood this correctly, in a prior decision, the pool was originally designed to be on the other side of the preserve? Other side
Yes.
of Preserve Drive?
Yes.
And then
Then they did
in a
an
prior
amendment.
amendment to the PUD,
Yeah.
they've moved it to this current location?
Correct.
Were other sites considered for the pool?
Were there other sites within the project for the pool location? I believe the answer is no, but Scott, could you confirm that? There was no other sites that had been proposed within the project for the pool, correct?
Correct. Other than the prior location immediately to the east on the other side of Preserve, south of Ash Street, there was no other location. The original PUD approval from, I believe, 2005, 2006 had a clubhouse and a pool located over there, and then about 10 years ago, it was switched to the other side of the street. And approved,
just the
that
two
location
locations.
change was approved by Plan Commission. We just never got site plan approval for the pool.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. I did go out and take a look at it. It's hard for me to look at maps on a wall here. But the original location was surrounded all by, back then, preserve property. It wasn't abutting against any other neighborhood property. It was all surrounded by property you guys owned and controlled.
That would be correct.
And that, okay.
Yeah, you don't have the full picture there, but yes, on the opposite side of that road, would be further into the center of the community.
Thank you.
And my understanding is that the end of Ravine Lane and between that and where the pool shed is going to become parking, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I do believe that is correct, yes.
Yes, and the main intention of this is to, again, remove these units so that they can construct that.
Mm-hmm.
I had another question that just popped up. So in the one drawing, I believe it's on the next page to this one, does show some landscaping for maybe some potential buffering between the pool and I think that's Preserve Drive. Is there going to be any landscaping or buffering between like the pool shed and the parking lot that help buffer between the pool and the private property that's on the other side of Ravine Lane?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
There's a huge tree line that already buffers between the two properties. There are
That's the tree-
probably
Grab some
80-foot-high
photos,
trees and brush that's between the two properties.
So, and Brad, that's the tree line you were talking about that can't be
Correct, correct.
removed? Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tony. Scott?
Thank you very much. If you have any more questions, we'll sit right here.
Absolutely. All right, anybody willing to make a motion? Oh,
Yeah, I think we are to host a public
oh, we
hearing.
are, that's right. Well, we could have did the motion first and then the public hearing. So, before you speak here, we'll do this the official way. Is there a motion to
Sorry?
conduct the public hearing?
Oh,
I make a motion that we open a public hearing?
sorry.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opening the public hearing? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public hearing is open.
Good evening. My name is Joe Ashen. Could you bring up that slide, I think it was page 39 for me? The next one before that. That's it. Can I borrow this? I've never shot one of these before. How does it work?
Just don't point it in our eye.
The red button? Oh, okay, great. I own this property from Baseline Road all the way over here, all the way down to here, all the way to here, okay? Ravine Lane runs along my property line. What would happen here now? Did I do that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can't bump the arrow.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Whoops, go back.
Yeah, quick picture of the
I
red.
didn't realize, okay. So, basically what worries me, and I think I sent you I sent you an email,
Yeah, we have
that,
a copy.
I'll just tell you what, first of all, I don't want to have a parking lot and a swimming pool and a bathhouse next to my property, okay? I live there. And I don't really want to have that right feet away from my house, where my house is going to be built right there in that area. One correction, though, I want to make is, Mr. Sinar explained that there was a lot of brush and a tree line. All that brush and trees are on my property. They're not a buffer they put up. That's mine, okay? That's another issue, which I'll get to in a minute. So what I would like to do, I wanted to, I'll read you this. I request that tonight's hearing on the PUD amendment requesting a pool and bathhouse construction be rescheduled for next month's meeting for the following reasons. One, the notice was mailed to my old address and not received by me in a timely manner. Two, due to the short notice, I was not able to schedule a meeting with my attorney, who was away on a Thanksgiving vacation until yesterday. He has not had sufficient time to review the amendment and requested that I request having this hearing rescheduled. Some, but not all of my concerns are, one, A, the improvement is not for the entire community, but only for the private condo association. I understand if there's going to be, for this to happen, if there's going to be an amendment, the only people that are going to use that pool are the people who live there. It's not open. And yet I got to suffer from the noise from the pool and the parties and whatever's going on. Previous history in dealing with the Harbor Club, the Harbors Club promises has caused both my neighbors and myself have lost credibility and trust. This pool and bathhouse will be built right next to my property and will cause an even greater loss of privacy, solitude, and enjoyment of my home. It will increase the noise from traffic, car alarms going off at all hours of the night, loud parties, and additional smoke from bonfires. In short, I'll have to suffer the consequences of having a pool and parking lot outside of my window and not have access to it. In closing, I request that the Commission give my attorney a chance to respond to this. Thank you. So my first request is to have this put off until my attorney can examine it and go from there. If you need me to bring up more things, I will, if this is not sufficient. My attorney informed me if the city will not give me a chance to address this, we'll discuss that at that time, okay? So I don't feel I've had a fair shake. Now, another thing is, regarding that fence that was supposed to have been erected, it was an agreement by the developer to erect a fence all the way along Ravine Lane 20 years ago. Never was done, okay? Never was done. They say there was something about an 80% opacity, which the developer will tell you, that there's not 80% opacity. I invite anybody here to come to my property and stand over here and look across. There's not 80% opacity, okay? So maybe there was before they built this road, because this was full of trees and all, it was built up. Once they built that road, went bye-bye. That was a few years ago. So I've talked to the city, and I'm going to read you excerpts from the city of South Haven, rather than read the whole letter. I notified, this is from Brad Katroba, I notified the condominium association / developer that this was a violation and would be advisable to extend the fencing as a hard screen between their properties all along Ravine Drive. They have not returned our request for a discussion and solution to fix and complete their violation, so we have to basically bring in the legal crew to begin the process of the city taking out a lawsuit for violating the approved agreement. Then I'll skip through, and it says here, it's unfortunately, but we have to go through our lawyers now just because the developer doesn't want to stick to their agreement made 20 years ago. So I at this point, am hesitant to agree to an agreement with these folks about what they're going to do there. First of all, I don't want it there, and I'll fight the hell out of that. And second of all, whatever they say, I don't have any faith in them. Third of all, whose brilliant idea was to build 100 houses there 8 feet apart? You know, that's another story. So with that, I request that this be tabled to give my attorney time to respond back to make sure my rights are protected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Is anybody else that wishes to speak about this project?
I have copies of these letters if you'd like them.
Anyone else?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to respond directly, but I don't know if I would need to.
State your name again, please.
My name is Anthony Lafredo. I'm a representative of Harbor Club. I don't think I need to call him in unless you guys had some questions, but I guess on a couple of things, I do believe the fence that was required by city staff was performed to the length at which it was put out there. So I guess just to clear that up. The opacity, other than the middle of winter, I would say anybody could drive in there, take photos. You can't see through there. It's a very thick line that is on the opposite side of the road. Doesn't really have anything to do with the project overall. And I think on, delays, I kind of went through everything the city staff wanted. We would ask that there'd be no delays. We have 60 homeowners that are kind of waiting for a pool as we go through this process. So it's just a couple comments I'd like to give you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Okay. So now what do you guys want to do? There's a couple motions you could make. There's been a request for a motion to postpone by adjacent property owner. There's recommendation by staff.
I have questions.
And you can ask questions.
The fence that was referenced generally when you put up a pool, there's fencing that's involved. When I was out there today, I noticed some fencing, but it doesn't extend back, obviously, to the pool. I looked, I couldn't find the original plans. I'd like to have that question answered. Is there supposed to be a fence, and if so, how far back is it supposed to be? How far south does it
Todd,
extend?
from the original agreement, from what I read in what was in the actual agreement from City Council back in 2005, 2006, when it was done, as Mr. Ashen said, there was a requirement for 80% opacity. That's what the requirements were. The property owner who has the home located towards Baseline Road had an issue with the opacity level there, and the developer and the city asked the developer to put the fence up. They installed that along their property, and that, there's that 80% rule that's in effect to this day.
Okay.
Is that property owner Mr. Ashen?
The property owner where the fence is installed currently, I believe, is the Russin family. And then immediately behind the Russin family is where Mr. Ashen's property line begins.
And the reason it wasn't extended along to include?
I couldn't tell you, Mike. That happened years before.
What was your question?
Mr. Ashen made the point that it wasn't completed. And I'm just trying to understand if they met the intent and the letter of what the agreement was with what they had done, or were they to extend it all along that piece of property, which would have covered Mr. Ashen's as well. At least from what I heard, what I heard is Mr. Ashen saying, look, that was supposed to cover my property too, and they
Right.
stopped it.
And again, what is in the agreement from what we have on record states only 80% opacity. It does not state fencing at all. If more than 20% of the tree line were removed, then it states that you have to replace it with fencing. So, yes, that's
helps a lot,
basically
Brad.
how it is in the agreement.
Forget the use of the word fence. Let me offer a hypothetical. So if that's Mr. Ashen's property and he decides to take out trees and it affects the opacity, will we then hold the developer responsible for?
I really don't think, I don't know about that, Nick. Maybe you can help me, but if
Yeah.
the other owner.
All right, Brad, I think what Mike's driving at, I remember when this topic was open, that was mentioned that there was a tree line that can't be removed. And it sounds to us like Mr. Ashen owns the tree line, but he wouldn't have been responsible for screening this development. So I think that's where is that where the confusion is?
We don't make the neighboring properties responsible for the buffer that's required in
Correct,
the
and,
PUD.
right, and from what I understand, from what I've heard from Mr. Ashen, is that the tree line is his, those are his trees. With regards to what tree line existed there before, I don't know what was there in 2006.
Thank you.
So following this train of thought, then,
Closer.
then the developer would be responsible, or we could put that as part of a recommendation, that a fence be built there by the developer, because Mr. Ashen at any time could decide to remove those trees or not, but protecting the noise from his property is the developer's responsibility.
I believe, and Nick, you can help me out with this, but I believe that you have the authority to place something like that on
I mean, we've been
motion to
doing that.
amend
We
a
do that
PUD.
with many properties to make sure that, it's landscaping, hard landscaping, or shrubs, or something to block and I think that's what Mike was getting at. So it's a responsibility of the developer to make sure that happens, not the tree line on Mr. Ashton's lot.
I agree that could be done. I do have one question for Brad. If you remember, does the 80% opacity come from the PUD conditions, or is that in the zoning ordinance?
It comes from the PUD conditions that
Okay.
were placed, those were what the city council enacted.
Okay. I think, yeah, that would basically be an amendment to those PUD conditions to reflect the current situation on the ground. You just require a fence instead of that 80% capacity. And that would be something planning commission can make a condition or recommend as a condition to this approval. And do I understand correctly that it's a matter of extending an existing fence southward?
Yes, there is a property, if I can show it up here on the wall. The property up here is another property owner, and again, I am unsure what happened, but there was some issue between the two neighbors, and a fence was requested, and a fence was provided for this neighbor. And it was, what they had done was install it to the end of that neighbor's property line. For the further extent here, again, all I could find in the actual conditions placed by city council during approval was that an 80% opacity level be maintained along the property line.
So,
So the fence stops roughly about here. And then all of this along here is just the tree line.
It picks up again in there somewhere, probably about where the pool starts, right in there, and then goes further south.
I don't recall seeing a fence.
I think that's the fence around the pool.
No, there's a
Another one?
property line fence down.
You're saying down here,
in the
Tim?
ravine, yeah. Huh?
May I address again?
There's a chain link fence. The rest of the fence around there is ornamental. And it's, if I remember correctly from the prior approval during the site development, the ornamental surrounds some contaminated areas from when that was a farm.
May I be so bold as to?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Not yet. And then I think there's a chain link fence down into the wooded area that separates the properties, like maybe off the old Haran property in there. And it goes almost to the, if what I remember right, the parking lot of the Harbor Club. So there is another fence down in there.
You're talking in this area.
Yes.
But not a fence that would provide any kind of buffering or anything.
No, not for the ravine lane part, no. So I guess we can't really tell from this one drawing from Edgewater where the property line is for ravine lane, can we?
On the opposite side, no.
There's no.
They're only showing the immediate project site.
Right. So the question would be if the neighbor did cut their trees down, they're the ones providing their own buffer. Is there enough room between Ravine Lane and to the west property line for the developer to install a buffer, right? That's what you guys are asking?
Yeah, Tim, because I am sympathetic to the idea that it's a considerable difference from living across from three houses
Yes.
to living across a pool. And I've been to the pool at the other end of the property, and there's some pretty good parties, live music. That's a little different. So I do think I'm sympathetic to considering incumbents that says it's got to be a pretty good buffer built between that pool and the residents. Especially since it appears to me, I still don't understand why the pool was moved to where it was originally intended to be, across that street. That still looks empty to me.
I don't know. Tony, can you answer that? Or maybe Scott, why the original PUD was amended 10 years ago to go across the street?
Yeah, that had to call.
Complete. Do you know without calling him?
I do not know.
Okay.
I wasn't around when the original PUD was all kind of designed and done. I've only known it's been in that location for the last 10 years since I've been here.
Yeah. So this is, you gotta remember, that's already been approved, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
too early for comment, I can't make any comment.
Nah, that's okay.
I
So,
understand.
it's not like we can say, no, you gotta take it back across the street, I don't think.
No,
It's been, gone through this process and approved, so.
Well, my concern is that it seems
let me
like unless we.
Let me finish my thought with Tim.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not asking that they move back to the other site,
Right.
but it also remains true that there's plenty of vacant property left in the preserves.
True, okay, I get your point.
Well, my concern is that twofold. They've removed some dwellings. Where they're going to go? In consideration with the entire project, there's plenty of places that they could actually choose that to go today. Number two, if with the opacity, that should not be the responsibility of the neighbor. And correct me if I'm wrong, clarify for me. The original PUD didn't intend for that to happen. So my question is, why do we have to amend something that the PUD already stated needed to be in place?
Well, because they have to take off the legal description of those lots. This fits over the top of
Yep.
those lot lines, so that's why we're talking
Okay.
about this.
In essence, we're not approving the pool, we're approving the removal of the lots.
Yes. So, and by the drawing you see on page, that one right there, it's 2 lots that are affected.
So with the removal of those lots, we need to amend, if we want the opacity to be what it needs to be, that the developer has to make sure that that's there and it's not the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, what is, it says 73 feet by 58 feet, and that's what's proposed in the future for a parking lot, and I guess, could you say, is there enough room to put a berm in between Ravine and that parking lot? And then when would you discuss that? Would it be now or when the next time? So page, what was that, page 40?
Well, again, pardon my ignorance here. If we approve the removal, if we approve allowing them to remove those 3 lots, 4 lots, excuse me, will there be a separate consideration of what they can put on that vacant land? Or if we just say, yeah, they can remove those 4 lots from the original PUD design, does that give them the right to put the pool in there?
No, I don't believe so. My understanding is that the pool will need to be approved as part of the PUD amendment, right?
It is, and that's why that's here, is to approve the pool in addition to the removal of those lots so they can install the pool.
So I'm looking at page 30 of the staff report, and it talks about landscaping. It says landscaping shall ensure the proposed uses will be adequately buffered from one another and from surrounding public and private property. And so, to me, I'm thinking that this maybe could be used to say, when we make a motion that additional buffering is added from the pool to the adjacent property to the west, maybe, perhaps.
And is there, Mr. Ashton had alluded to a violation, is there a current violation on that?
When I was first contacted about this situation, I was told that there was a required fence along that property line. At the time, I said if there was a code violation, that we would notify the property owner and take action if necessary. Upon further review, as I said, through the conditions that were imposed by city council when the original PUD was approved, that's when I discovered that there was an 80% opacity rule and there was no mention of fencing in that condition.
Okay. All right, there's a couple motions that can be made. Depends what you guys want to do.
And just to clarify, Brad, so we're making a motion to basically recommend approval by the city council, right? Or are we approving this PUD amendment?
If you approve it, yes, you would be recommending approval, if that's what you choose to do, to remove those 4 units, units 147, 148, 149, and 150, and then allow for the construction of the swimming pool.
I have a procedural question. Mr. Ashen mentioned not receiving his notification. It was put in the newspaper. I mean, I think good faith efforts were made. Do we act on that information at all? Or the fact that he wasn't able to respond the way?
As most of these go, there's a public notice in the newspaper, and then property owners within so many feet, whatever their address is on file, they're also mailed the notice. So that's a staff and probably the city attorney question. They can address that.
Okay.
We would have mailed notices to the addresses that we have on file. If that's not the address that Mr. Ashen or any other neighbors wish to receive their notices, that's something they'll have to bring up to staff, and we'd have to get that corrected in our system. It's going to be the same addresses that we send tax bills to and any other official notices. So that's something that, we can work on with Mr. Ashen moving forward if there's a new address he wants to work for, but I'm not concerned about not meeting the requirements of adequate noticing in this situation.
Thank you.
The other motion that's on, that could be considered, is to delay, correct?
Correct.
And the reason for delaying would be one.
If you needed more information.
Time for his attorney to offer his opinion on.
Well, yes, maybe, but I would say more legitimately, it'd be if you would need more information.
Regarding screening is.
Yes. From what I've heard so far. There may be other reasons, but that's the most predominant I've heard so far this evening.
Yes, and again, I agree with that, Tim. That's the proper way to say it. But I also remember my history. It wasn't too long, Mr. Ashen was on the other side of this issue. And we delayed the decision on his yurts several times. It seems fairness that we grant him the right to have another month to take a look at this.
Okay, I would just say if you do decide for a delay if you need other information, make it very clear what you would like staff to provide for the next meeting. Okay, so no time is wasted.
Are you saying then that we can't approve this project with the amendment that screening be done on the pool side?
You could, but then it would go to city council and you wouldn't have a chance to
I understand.
put your comments on it if it meets what you think it should. So you could gamble that way too. Up to you guys, but we do need to make a decision one way or the other. It's 8 o'clock and we've got more to do.
I would support a delay for to give the applicant, oh, I see Tony's got his hand up, the applicant more time to address the screening questions that have been brought up here, and to give Mr. Ashen time to act if he chooses to.
I guess I just don't want the planning commission to get into trouble, and I don't know if, Nick, if you have any, can weigh in on this. Is that adequate basis for delaying action on this, or?
I think it would be. It looks to me from the images that were shown up there that it's unclear where the property line is and whether a fence is even possible. And we don't have someone from the applicant who can speak to the kind of possibility of a fence. So that would be one way to go. I was coming back when Ms. Varney was considering possible motions. Another option would be to recommend some type of barrier and leave it up to the city council as to what that barrier would look like. Either one, I think, is justifiable.
I completely understand the sentiment. Trust me, I don't want to delay stuff any longer either. It's, once again, the planning commission is doing the heavy lifting for the city. And, but I do think in light of, I can support Todd's proposal, his proposal that's on the floor here, because I don't think a month is much to ask. The other thing I'd throw in as a circumstance is, it's fine to have them on the phone, but I'd sure love to be able to address the developer face to face. I'm so sorry. Again, I certainly understand the COVID and the reason he couldn't be here, but it would be nice to be able to address him face to face and have a little better interchange with the developer.
Applicant had his hand up. I don't know if he,
Well, I'm trying to get a motion here, so,
okay.
all right. So, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. So I would think there's at least a couple of you, whether you could get a motion and support, and then we can discuss further, but I think if you make your motion, try to add something specific to it, like you want to see the property line and how that corner is really going to be developed.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll move that we delay this until next month in order to give the applicant time to provide us with clear information regarding the property line and screening between the proposed pool and neighbor to the west.
Okay.
Second?
And just clarify, it's a motion to postpone.
Postpone, that's what I'm looking for.
Thank you. All right, now, we have a motion on the floor. Has it been supported?
I supported it, yes.
Supported it, okay. Is there further discussion? Is there anything that's missing from this motion? None? Okay, is that clear for staff? Or do you have any questions for us?
Yes, the commission's asking the applicant to provide information regarding the location of the property line accurately and the distance from the pool and any conceptual idea of what they would do for screening.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
A stake where the property line is on the west side of the driveway there, because when I was out there, it looked quite different from what I'm hearing.
We can request a survey of the property as well. The applicant, I'm sure, probably has one on file.
Okay.
We probably do too.
I'm sure we have one or two, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's good to go?
Yep.
All right. So all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so next January, we'll look at that again, and staff will get with you and Scott, okay? All right. Item 8, M140 rezoning request. Is that Griffin?
It is. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity. The Planning Commission this evening is going to be asked to host a public hearing and consider a proposed rezoning of the M140 district as outlined in your packet. For a little bit of background, in November, City Council hosted a public hearing and approved a conditional land use transfer agreement with South Haven Township, which will conditionally, for a period of 10 years, bring a section of properties along that corridor into the purview of the city of South Haven. A few other items and timelines are kind of moving forward at the same time. One of them being is City Council is exploring creating a new commercial rehabilitation district along that same corridor. And Planning Commission this evening is being asked to rezone those parcels. The approved 425 agreement between the township and the city turns over planning and zoning authority, among other things, from the township to the city for these parcels. So consequently, a zoning district or zoning districts need to be assigned to these absorbed parcels to ensure that they can be regulated appropriately under the city's zoning ordinance. So as outlined in the packet, there are a few recommendations that are noted. Primarily, these parcels are contemplated in the future land use map as being commercial, for the exception of a few. Based on staff's review, it seems appropriate for most of the parcels to be rezoned into the B2 district, but there could be some contemplation by the Planning Commission whether B4 may be more appropriate. So those are two options that are put before you this evening to consider. Hear public comment and then make a motion to consider a rezoning. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, page 56 on screen. Thank you. Okay, are there any questions for staff?
Griffin, maybe you can kind of review the difference between B2 and B4. It seems like one gives more options than the other, perhaps, if I understand it right.
That is correct. The B2 general business zoning district is designed to cater mostly to the needs of a larger consumer population than served by the B1, which is the neighborhood business zoning district. For reference, most of the rest of the LaGrange and Broadway corridor is zoned B2, where B4 is a major thoroughfare business zoning district. It allows for a little bit more intense of a use, has different setback requirements, permitted heights, and so on and so forth, and is more commonly used in the city along major thoroughfares, for example, over by I-196 and Blue Star Highway.
But if we were to go to the B4 option, everything that would be allowed in B2 would be allowed in B4.
That is correct.
Okay.
May I also just add to that? One of the primary differences between the B2 and the B4, as Griffin had stated, the B2 is primarily located along Broadway. For retail businesses, we permit them by right at 5,000 square feet or less in size. So they can request a special use for a larger structure on site, but it's typically been designed to accommodate those smaller store sizes, where the B4 district, the major thoroughfare like along Phoenix out by 196 and stuff, typically are for anything larger than the 5,000 square feet, contain larger parking lots, things like that. So that just gives you a little reference of the scale difference between the two. B2 was considered something as considered a possible option, as Griffin said, because it already extends up and down that Broadway, LaGrange, Phillips area.
before is just thrown in there for consideration in the case the Planning Commission wanted to discuss many of these parcels' proximity to Blue Star Highway. Another consideration in all of this is staff's recommendations are consistent with the future land use map. The city of South Haven does some, Brad always gives me the better term, is it extraterrestrial zoning?
It's called extraterritorial.
There you go.
Extraterritorial planning. It can only be done in a master plan. It has no legal status to it other than in the master plan as a future land use, therefore allowing a community to have a goal set out of what they would like to see that general area shape into in the future.
And part of the benefits of that are when these cooperation agreements are completed between jurisdictions. The city of South Haven, through its past master planning process, had already put some thought into what the zoning of those parcels could be to be consistent with the surrounding area.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm very appreciative of the collaboration that we're seeing here between the township and the city. I think that's very healthy for our community and certainly zeroing in on economic development in this way. My question is, I understand that this is a 10-year agreement. So what is the advantages at the end of the 10-year agreement for the township and or the city if indeed the agreement reverts back to the township at that time?
That's a really good question, and that is a non-standard use of a 425 agreement. My understanding is the reason that was contemplated and moved forward in this situation is exactly as you mentioned. It's a show of cooperation between the two entities. So for a period of 10 years, the city would take jurisdiction over these parcels. The city would consider creating a commercial rehab district, which those tax abatements can go for a maximum of 10 years, so hence the congruent timeline, if you will. And for that period of time, the city can help to use its carrots and sticks, so incentives and enforcement tools that the city has at its disposal to help clean up that corridor. I think the idea is that even after 10 years, having a revitalized corridor will have economic benefits for the city, but it will also benefit the township in the long term when it is reverted back. Hopefully that's clear enough.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a little history. I used to live in the township, and back when the city sewer water agreement was made with the surrounding townships, Casco and South Haven, there became a little bit of territorial battles that went on, and there was part of that agreement was that the city was, I don't know, prevented but discouraged from annexing any parts of the city. So for some time, something like this would have been annexed. And I think the 425 agreement is a great tool to allow the two communities to work together and yet still respect each other's fences, so to speak.
Yeah. Just to be clear on the utilities, Covert paid for the main line. Covert was the first customer for water. The township, specifically South Haven Township, on the south side was very lucky to be able to tap into a line they didn't have to pay for.
Right. Yeah.
So to go back, if I can, to the purpose of what's being brought before you all this evening, I absolutely agree. I think this 425 has been contemplated between the two entities for many years and has some advantages for both entities. What's specifically being brought before the Planning Commission tonight is the consideration of the rezoning. To reiterate, the consequence of that is that with the 425 agreement that will formally take effect at the beginning of the new year, turning over various things, examples being planning and zoning authority to the city needs to or is recommended to designate zoning districts to these absorbed parcels so that they can be adequately regulated moving forward. So we're moving through a few different parallel timelines, if you will, with approval of 425 agreements, considerations of commercial rehab districts, as well as the consideration of the rezoning this evening, with the goal of all three of those timelines taking effect pretty much at the same time at the turn of the new year.
But what I'm hearing you say, Griffin, just to make it simple, there may be things going on in parallel. However, we have one specific request before us, and that's the rezoning.
That's correct. The request
could-
before you all is the rezoning. City Council's authority is to address 425s and commercial rehabs and so on and so forth. We're bringing before you all this evening consideration of what may be the most appropriate zoning districts for these parcels.
So could you repeat for us what the staff's recommendation is from what zoning to what zoning? What are you asking us specifically?
Sure. So staff is asking the Planning Commission to consider a motion to recommend the proposed rezoning of the listed parcels to the B2 General Business Zoning District, with the exception of two parcels which are listed to the I-1 Light Industrial. Alternatively, and as a discussion item, the Planning Commission may elect to recommend that the subject parcels are rezoned to B4, the Major Thoroughfare Zoning District, should it be deemed more appropriate, with the exception of the same two parcels, which should be rezoned to the I-2 General Industrial.
Yes.
Maybe you answered this question earlier, but does the B4 give more flexibility?
Yes.
It provides for larger developments and other things. As was pointed out earlier, anything that is Zone B4, you can do anything from B2 in that as well.
It is also a more intense land use category.
Gotcha.
Any more immediate questions for staff?
Yeah, just a quick question. So we picked two parcels for the I Industrial 2 General Industrial District, 54 and 48, just to use those, the second to the last two numbers. And I was just wondering about parcel number 49, which is kind of in that same general area, also next to that, kind of the entrance to that industrial site there. And I was wondering, was that ever considered as part of?
The recommendation was based strictly off of what was contemplated in the approved future land use map. So the two parcels, kind of to the south, they are contemplated to be zoned industrial per the future land use map, where the one to the north was contemplated as commercial. The future land use map is strictly where staff based its recommendation.
Okay, all right. Was there any, was the township providing any input as far as, other than what the future land use map was talking about? Did they?
Not at this time. Staff did contemplate, it did put thought into its recommendation that this rezoning is really only going to be for a period of 10 years, because after that period of time, this property will revert back to the township. So we did put thought into creating we didn't want to recommend a rezoning that's going to be so inconsistent with the current uses there, or what other uses that the township has in that general area, and these commercial uses and industrial uses similar to what is proposed in the future land use map, we found to be quite consistent with what those uses are presently.
Okay, good for now. All right, let's open the public hearing.
I make a motion to hold a public meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to open a public hearing. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak on this, what's the title of it again? The rezoning request? You sure, Rick? Okay. Okay. Why don't you come up to the podium anyway? I want to ask you a couple questions.
It'll teach you.
So this is Rick.
I'm Rick Goodwin. I'm the owner of South Haven Small Engine.
So I'm just curious, because your property is not listed in this. Did the township contact you and you opted out, or did you have any idea this was going on? And the reason I ask this is because I assume, as Griffin had stated, and I'll summarize it this way, the city has more tools in its toolbox for rehabilitation than the township does, and more staff. And a lot of those areas you see in purple, I assume, are going to get assistance in various ways to redevelop those sites.
Okay, so
And
I
your
heard rumor
properties-
that there was going to be a 425 type thing. I don't know anything about that. I'm
Okay.
just kind of curious as to what all is transpiring. As far as the city sent me this, so I read that. I just wanted to come and listen to see what's going on. I would say that it's going to affect me, but it's not going to affect me because I am not an actual property owner here.
Okay.
I rent. So I would just come to try to get an idea of what's going on. That's
All right.
all I'm doing. I'm just
Very
listening.
good.
All right. Any questions for me?
No
All right.
questions.
Well, I appreciate the time.
Okay.
That's a really good question, though, Tim. I'm curious on this map. Brad, could you laser where small engine repair is?
I think it is in the purple.
The hole in the,
Yep, right there.
So why is that parcel?
That
there?
is not South Haven Small Engine. South Haven Small Engine is the 8017-015-4000.
I was mistaken then.
oh, yeah.
So it is in the rezoning, okay.
Oh, good. Then
Yeah.
you won't be out of the toolbox. I thought that was his property.
Yeah, and Mike, if I,
There's where I'm at.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
This right here is the old Howard Auto Parts.
Yep.
This is the big barn back here. This right here is the house just north of me.
Yep.
And then that property all goes behind there. This is where John Stereo used to be. The library's been in there, and that's the Napa.
Okay.
And then this back here is, I believe, Merck's Buildings.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, good. I'm glad. All right, anybody else wish to speak? Public hearing. So seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support?
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, let's back to the staff recommendation. So basically, looking at B2 or B4, B4 seems to be the most, what do I say, general, allows the most, but I don't know.
Yeah, to me, Tim, what I understood is the difference is B2, flip that around, B2 would be more restrictive in terms of what type of properties would be developed along there. So the question, of course, would be, what's the vision of what do we want that corridor to be like? B4 could also do the same thing,
Yeah.
but we open it up to big box stores, things like that, right?
And does it really matter? Because if it reverts in 10 years, basically we're saying the township's going to adopt city ordinances for 10 years, and after that,
Yep.
it doesn't matter, right? Or do they adopt?
after 10 years, it would go back to the township's regulations, their zoning, their ordinances, and so on and so forth, assuming this agreement isn't extended or some other
Right.
similar agreement isn't put in place. But yes, the city's purview, at least is the agreement that's been put in place, contemplates would be for a period of 10 years.
So does it really matter? I don't know.
Well, when I look at the properties that are there, some that are within the purple, some that were not in the purple, I mean, there's some of both, what I would say, both B2 and B4. So I'm kind of inclined to go with the B4 just because it gives more options, but
There's also light industrial.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true, too. You know, and it's, again, I'm not the expert to make this call, but I obviously would opt for the zoning that gives us the best chance of revitalizing that district. And I'd love to see development of that corridor.
And if a different project comes, you could keep the more restrictive, and if a project came along, they can request a change, so
Yep,
it's
that's
not
correct.
set in stone like that.
That's correct. Thank you.
So I don't know, I kind of say stay with the 2. But anyway, we all know what's going on, so if somebody will make a motion, we can keep moving.
All right, I make a motion to take on the staff recommendations for rezoning of the above listed parcels to B2 zoning district with the, I think it's the exception of the 48 and 54 properties.
Which will be
B2,
rezoned,
rezoned to B2.
no,
No, it's
I-1 light industrial.
Light industrial.
I-2.
I one.
The 2 are the exception.
I thought they were I-2 industrial.
Correct, I-2, general industrial. That's immediately what's next door in the city already.
Is it L2? I2?
I
thought it was light industrial.
I thought I read that too.
That's what I would.
1, page 50. Page 50, recommendation.
That's what I'm.
Correct. So
Yes.
there,
I-1 light industrial, yeah.
there were two motions proposed, or there's 2 things that are being
Yeah.
offered for consideration. One is the lease intents of the 2 uses, so that's B2 and I1. And 2 is the more intense of the 2 uses, which is B4 and I2.
Yeah. It's up to you whether you want
talking about choice
I1
one,
or
right?
I2.
I was going for choice 1.
I1's fine. Okay.
Yeah, B2, I1 are one and the same, right?
Yeah, well, no. So you said you had a motion to, let me see how.
The
I
general
can do-
business zoning district.
Yes, with the exceptions of parcel that includes 48, 54.
Correct.
Which will be rezoned to I1
I1
light
light
industrial.
industrial,
Yes.
I'll support that.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion, George?
Yeah, so I'm looking at, let me find the page here. It was, I think, the page 80, which has the draft ordinance, and it says B2 and I2. So that should be I1 on page 80.
Yeah, you're right.
It could be whichever one either of you wanted. But yes,
It could be B2 and I1, or B2 and I2, or it could be B4 and I1, or B4 and I2.
Okay, all right.
But it really doesn't matter, because I say you stick with the stricter interpretation, and then if something comes along, it can be requested to change it.
and the goal of those 2 with the industrial, so the exceptions, if you will, is not only that's what's contemplated by the current future land use map, but my understanding is those parcels are also owned by an industrial manufacturer in that area, and trying to remain consistent with what their use is doesn't give them a hard time moving forward, if you will.
I'm good.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Okay, that's it for that one. Is everybody doing okay, or you need a break?
Fine.
Okay.
All right, next item will be a discussion item only. No action will be taken. This is agenda item 9, food truck ordinance discussion. Who's taking that one?
I'll go ahead and start, but I'm going to hand it over to the city attorney here shortly. This and the next item Nickel take the lead on. But just a little bit of background is at the November 1 City Council meeting, City Council asked the Planning Commission to study possible amendments to the mobile food truck ordinance as outlined in the staff memo, and Nick can go into that in a little bit more detail for us.
Sure. So the city council has asked for a pretty general review of this ordinance for a number of reasons. The first being that the city's doing an ongoing review of its code of ordinances in general, just to update them, find things that are either preempted by state law or outdated, touch-up language, all those kinds of things. One of the ones that really stood out as being hard to follow was this food truck ordinance. And rather than wait for that code review process to move all the way forward, the city council had some interest in kind of jumping this one to the front of the line and getting planning commission input. Another is we have an applicant for a food truck license that has some specific requests about ordinance changes that they would like to see, and those are specifically relate to year-round vending. The current ordinance, I believe, does not allow mobile food vending between the end of October and the beginning of April, so basically the winter months, and also is fairly restrictive in terms of where food trucks can operate. On private property, they can only operate in the B2 and B4 zoning districts, not in the CBD, not anywhere in residentially zoned areas. And on public property, it's only as allowed by city council resolution, and as far as staff can find, the only resolution in existence only pertains to very small, like basically hot dog stand type of vendors, doesn't cover food trucks at all. So effectively, food trucks can only operate on private property in the B2 and B4 zoning districts, and there's some interest in the community in looking to expand that potentially into other zones. So a couple of things for the Planning Commission to tackle, and we anticipate that this is going to be a few meeting process. It's not going to be all done tonight. In my opinion, the ordinance needs to be rewritten in its entirety, and rather than go line by line with the Planning Commission as to what that could look like, staff worked with myself to identify good models from other communities, and we've just put that into kind of what we call a base ordinance that leaves the kind of key decisions, the ones I just talked about, where food trucks go, when they can operate. There's blanks in the draft ordinance for that purpose, for the Planning Commission to discuss those specific items. And then other than that, we have a kind of fully fleshed out ordinance for the Planning Commission to review and comment on. It is a total rewrite. It does change some things to the existing ordinance. In my opinion, it significantly clarifies some issues that there aren't clear answers to under the existing ordinance. And it's much shorter. I think our hope is that it's going to be easier for applicants to follow. I would say the primary flaw with the existing ordinance is it has 5 or 6 different categories of food vendors, and it's very difficult to tell what is what. This has a single category of food vendors. It says they all need a permit unless they're operating pursuant to a special event application approved by the city. So for a special event, you could have a food truck that's never operated in the city come from Kalamazoo or something like that. And as long as the applicant listed them as coming that day, they wouldn't need to go through any other type of regulatory process. Those that are going to be operating in the city on a regular basis would go through the permitting process spelled out in this ordinance. So I think rather than go line by line through this, I was planning to just entertain questions on the draft ordinance and then get into discussion. And we can bring this back, the draft ordinance, at another meeting if you haven't had a chance to go through it in detail. But we also wanted to lead some discussion on the 2 kind of big decision points, which are year-round vending and where food trucks should be allowed to operate.
And what, in the proposed language, where are those 2 items? What numbers are they?
So 1446, the license shall be only valid for, and then the blank, that would be the period of time, or that provision might be removed entirely if it's decided they can operate year-round. And then 1448A is going to have a reference to the zoning districts where they're permitted to operate. We were contemplating that there'll be a separate zoning ordinance and we can get into this later, but there's a number of possibilities. It might be more complicated than just saying X, Y, and Z zones. Communities do a number of different things. You could have like food truck parks as a designated use and say they only can be operated in food truck parks. You can have them on any private property so long as they provide sufficient parking and have the consent of the owner. Some communities have kind of buffering from brick and mortar restaurants. Those are controversial provisions and have been challenged in some circumstances. But there's a lot of options that the Planning Commission could explore when we get to there. So it might be a little bit more complicated than just spelling out the zoning ordinances, but that's how it's written for now.
Okay. All right, any questions?
I got a couple questions, or comments, I guess. I like the fact that the draft ordinance seems a lot simpler and more straightforward. I like that part of it, and that some of the details are carried out by resolution as opposed to having to redo the ordinance for certain things. So I like that part of it. One question I had was on 1448. It talks about Alpha. It talks about the mobile food vendors operating on private property once they obtain the written consent from the affected private property owner. And I just was wondering about what affected private property owner would be. Obviously, if you're operating on someone's private property, that owner would be affected, but would you need also permission from adjacent property or property owners within so many feet of that
We can clarify
property?
that. My intent there was just the property owner who's actually physically being occupied, but that's a good point. I'll make a note to clarify that language.
So what you're asking is to say any residential neighborhood, if food truck pulled up in somebody's driveway and set up shop, how does it affect the neighbors on either side?
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay.
You know, I can see, you know, some neighbors probably wouldn't have a problem with that, depending on, you know, the type of food and the proximity to the food truck and things like that. Yeah, I always try to think of examples, and one example I think of is, well, like an ice cream truck that drives around the city, and, you know, I think of that as a food truck, but, you know, it's not like the traditional food truck that you see parked somewhere and people come to it. It kind of moves around but then I've also been to communities where like Nick was saying, where you have like designated areas where food trucks are basically there all the time, and it's kind of a synergy kind of effect where the food trucks are kind of work together to provide a, you know, kind of common, you know, complementary foods in some cases.
No, I think a lot of times they use it as a stopgap for maybe areas that don't have restaurants, or they set that up to make it more feasible. And I think there's some state parks or like that are like that.
Yeah, I thought the draft was really well written, thank you, Nick. But I share those concerns, George, and I'm hoping that we take our due time to get best practices from other communities, because the flip side of what you just said, Tim, is Grand Rapids has a very vibrant food truck industry all throughout downtown. We have in the past designated spots at the farmer's market for food trucks. Then we changed that rule. You know, it's been a moving target. So I think the discussion we're going to have will be robust about, you know, where do they belong, if they belong, and how do we best serve the community. It's going to be an interesting talk.
I have a comment. I was curious, when you read an ordinance that's difficult to read and obviously out of date, why there was, in a couple of places, there was so much emphasis on it not being in the central business district, and why was that? I'd like to know, before we change that, I'd like to know why that was the case. It's, I mean, 20 years, depending on your age, that doesn't seem that long ago. What was going on, that was, to me, it seems like the natural place for this would be Central Business District or adjacent. I thought about, down by the beach, adjacent to restrooms in different parts of the city, or the old Foundry Hall parking lot, things like that, that are Central Business District, or maybe on adjacent to it.
The possibilities is what's going to blow our mind. I mean, the options are going to be wide. I mean, the new Maritime Museum, what a perfect spot to be able to allow a couple food vendors in there. It's going to change the whole north side, which used to have restaurants, now would be open to having a few food trucks now and then. So, I mean, it's an exciting option, but it's going to take some really work to, Tim, you may know, you're our historian, but I can remember the opposition was very vocal against having them downtown, very vocal.
Well, I think what you're referring to is there's a lot of discussion about restaurant owners who have
Correct.
high overhead. They're paying city utilities, city property taxes versus a low overhead operation, setting up shop right in front of where you are, and that wasn't received very well years ago.
The interesting part of that, though, of course, history changes.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that our current restaurant owners might be one of the first ones to have food trucks.
Could very well. Or, here's another thing. Do you open up the possibility, somebody that owns a building in the Central Business District, do they say, you know what, it's better for me to just tear my building down, pave it, and do a food truck park?
Yeah, that's true. There was an interesting concept for the old township office over by the bowling alley. If you recall, those have bays where you can actually pull a truck into, a bus into, and there was an investor at one point looking at putting a brewery in there and using those bays for food trucks to come in. It didn't go very far, but so there's lots of interesting possibilities. But you're right, Tim. We have to consider the downside as well.
So, Nick, tell me, you're familiar with the beach concession stand agreement, are you not?
Vaguely. I think I wrote it, but it's been
Yeah.
several years.
You did write it, so that's why. So if I remember correctly, in there, it states something like, city will lease this property to you, and therefore, there will be no other food vendors on the beach. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. It might be within a designated area on the beach, but
I
there's
think-
some type of
I think other than
non-competition clause.
festivals like along Water Street, right on the beach itself, it's prohibited due to the city doing the concession stand agreement.
I think that's right.
So you'd have to look at that as well. Do you open up the beach? And then that makes the concession stand less attractive, right? But it'd be tough for the city to say, yeah, we're leasing this property out, and food trucks are prohibited on the beach, but you know what? Central Business District building owners that have restaurants, it's fair game for you guys. It might be a tough sell. So, all right, any other discussion?
Well, as I think about it, we have entrepreneurs in this town that we have to think about as well. The folks in the Central Business District, God bless them, but if we're talking about their entrepreneurs, and if you got somebody in a food truck, and we put ordinances in place that prevent the opportunity for them to be entrepreneurs, that's something that we have to really think about as well, because what we're doing is creating a space for some and not for others. And we need to be open-minded about that and really create zoning laws that are open for folks, but at the same time, don't be prohibitive to others. And I think we need to really think about, for instance, 1446 here, if we're going to, that, putting the timetable on it is benefits the folks in the Central Business District. And I think we need to really think about, if we're going to open this up, we need to really give the folks that are the entrepreneurs a chance at it. Or we leave things the way they are. I think cracking the door open isn't necessarily really opening it. And if we do it, I think we might need to, 1446 probably, in my opinion, shouldn't be in there. And really take a look at creating park locations within the city where this can happen. Because we created those kind of spots down by the beach. We've created in the Central Business District, giving people opportunities to really grow their businesses. If we're going to open this up, I think we should give a real opportunity for this food truck situations to open up and thrive.
And there's a whole other area that we're going to have open for discussion too. There's a whole bunch of large areas in our city that are underserved by options for food. We don't have to interfere with the Central Business District.
Correct.
In my neighborhood, I'd love to have a place to be able to walk and get something to eat. When Overton is up and running, if we truly want that to be a walkable community, wouldn't it be great if they could walk over to a food truck? So, I mean, there are areas in our town that, the way our town has grown, that I think are currently underserved, and this might be a way to serve them.
I agree.
So I'll let some public comment at this time. Does that sound okay? Yeah. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak? Please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
So my name is Trevor Brooks, and I live at 429 Cherry Street. And this conversation is incredibly interesting to me. Our family is actually new to the area. We've been coming here for summers for a while now, but we want to ultimately move here. And part of that process of moving, though, I'm looking to do some investments. I want to bring my family here. And one of the things that I've noticed in South Haven, and it's a problem, and I'm quite sure you guys are all well aware of it. In the summer, though, this Central Business District, getting food is a problem. Last summer, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we just ended up leaving because we had to go eat because, the restaurants, 2.5 hour wait. I was like, So it got me thinking. I'm Canadian, but I'm actually from Texas. I've been in Texas for the last 20 years, and in Texas, the food truck industry is part of the culture now, and it's an amazing, exciting culture, and it's something that you definitely should be interested in. Having said that, I'm looking at buying the property next door. That includes the parking lot, the Dairy Queen, and the building on the other side of Dairy Queen. And I'm doing that because I'm interested in the parking lot, because I want to put a food truck park in that parking lot. I think the parking lot ultimately is probably could house 5 to 6 trucks easily. But some of the things you have to consider with a food truck, and I'm not privy to your draft document, but with the trick with trucks, and one of the things that I've learned, especially from Texas, is containing them in parks, is because the trucks have to get cleaned. The trucks have a limited amount of space for the food, so it's like, well, where are you prepping your food? Like all these considerations. And so in Texas, you have the commissary kitchens where the truck actually has to leave and go to the kitchen every night, clean the truck out, get it reconstituted for the next day, et cetera, et cetera. I'm willing to invest in all of that. The building next door to the Dairy Queen is basically a wide open. I'm willing. I want to invest. I want to build a commissary kitchen in there. The way the Dairy Queen sits now, there's the interior space. I'm willing to increase the bathroom situation because I know for a couple of things. I know ultimately getting trucks in here will drive foot traffic down into the Dairy Queen. And I'm excited about the idea of bringing Greek food and Thai fusion and barbecue, you know, a great barbecue truck and that kind of stuff. So I don't, again, like I said, you know, I'm looking to invest specifically, and it's kind of weird to say, but I'm interested in that parking lot, the Dairy Queen's bonus. And I'd love, you know, I'm excited to work with you guys to ultimately kind of figure out, and hey, you can use me in that concept that, you know, as maybe a test case of parks. And I totally agree, you know, it's, you know, the idea of having multiple parks, there's just a huge opportunity from, you know, the Central Business District desperately needs it. But, you know, you go out, there's definitely other opportunities as well. Let's use this particular, you know, this particular opportunity to do some test case and stuff. I'm open for it. So, my name's like I said, my name's Trevor Brooks. So I'll get with you guys after. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Diane Carlson, and I live at 74 South Avon Street. I live across from Kids Corner. I support food vendor trucks. I would support extending them all year round. I do not support, and I am opposed to having food vendor trucks in residential areas. I don't want a food vendor truck in my next door neighbor's driveway or in front of his house. I bought land, I built a home to live in a residential area. If I wanted a lot of business in restaurants, I would buy a condo here downtown overlooking the busy street. I came for the lake, I came for the view. Kids Corner Park is extraordinarily busy. It's developed into something totally different than 30 years ago when we had a little cottage. It's busy. I worry about safety if we have food vendor trucks. The ice cream truck, one of you mentioned, I sit on my porch. I have a really nice porch. I sit on my porch a lot, and I watched as that ice cream truck trolled Kids Corner, and the kids were running out there. I'm worried about their safety, the congestion of parking and traffic, the noise that's going to be brought by a food vendor truck. With something like that as an attraction, you're going to have people, you're going to have more littering, and that may not be the food vendor truck's responsibility, but I see what's left when big gatherings come to the park. As far as the beach goes, or the public parking at South or North Beach, I'm back to the safety issue. I worry about the kids and people going through the parks. We have a problem with drivers here. A big problem with drivers. People want parking, and they'll do whatever they can to get to a parking place, and they're focused on a parking spot as opposed to going and worrying about the food and everything. I do not want to see Kids Corner Park or other parks turned into food vendors. I think there's a place for that. You go to Chicago, you go downtown, there's food vendors all over the place. I don't think you find them in the suburbs. I don't think you find them in neighborhoods, and I don't think they belong in the neighborhoods. And I know most of my neighbors feel the same way, that they don't want that business, that busyness in their neighborhood. I didn't buy in for that. So I think we have an opportunity to find a balance between the two. I don't know where that is necessarily, but I think because of the situation that we have with, again, so many people in the summer, I think we do have an issue with being able to go downtown. We don't go downtown and eat in the summer at all because we don't want to wait 2 hours. Plus, I have a better view than anybody else's. So I'd rather stay home. But beside the point, that we do need other venues for people to go, and a food vendor truck may be the answer. But I think we really need to be very careful about protecting the homeowners that live here all year round versus the entrepreneurs. I think there's probably a compromise somewhere there, but I would ask that we really take a lot of consideration into the homeowners and living in a neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. Something just occurred to me. I wonder about the idea of granting a zoning exemption for particular blocks. And the reason I say that is that then the neighbors would be notified and they'd have a chance to speak out. Because I'm just thinking there may be some neighborhoods that would just love to have a food truck, and others that would feel the way that she did and be opposed to it. And that way it could be more individualized throughout the city. Something to think about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Danielle Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard, and ignore him. I love you, my dear, but I don't want him in the neighborhoods. But I'm thinking, okay, the new senior center has this giant parking lot. Put a row of food trucks right there on M140, you know, close that end. I can't imagine they're ever going to fill that parking lot. We have a new zone supporting the medical community, where businesses that support the medical community, and a lot of the talk was small restaurants, food truck court. I think we can be creative with putting these somewhere other than a neighborhood where, you know, the guy's got a barbecue going and now there's smoke billowing and it's stinky, and I don't like the way roasting flesh smells because I'm a vegetarian. I just think that we can put them somewhere other than not in my backyard.
Anyone else? Okay, so we'll go back to the commission now. And with that comment, I got to thinking about, like with the festivals, you have all the vendors lined up and all the garbage that is produced. And that's another thought, you know, if you do have these truck courts, who's paying for the garbage removal?
Well, it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be a heck of a conversation. I mean, philosophically, every commissioner up here knows my position on having any businesses in a residential zone, but we've already crossed that line. So what we have to consider is, how do we do it in the least obtrusive way, if we're going to do it, yet providing opportunity to entrepreneurs that may not be able to take advantage of other ways we are making money off of our property in this town. So I mean, it's going to be a great discussion. I'm certainly sympathetic. Sympathetic to not wanting one next door to me. But I live next door to people that are already barbecuing. They don't live here year-round.
So what spearheaded this was the
Gentlemen.
request for, oh, would you like to speak? Okay.
I just listen.
Please state your name, address.
Aaron Cobb, 914 Center Street. I own the little A&D one stop at 883 Indiana Avenue. And I'm all for the food trucks. But I know if it's approved, there will be stipulations where the food truck can be, I believe. And someone just mentioned the garbage. Now, if it's approved and say, for instance, I have a food truck and I station a food truck there, I have a garbage bin, I have to order a garbage bin from a reliable, who's the best way, a small garbage bin beside my food truck to put the garbage in. It's commercial, and I would have to pay for the removal of that garbage, like I do in my store. I have a small garbage bin, and I have to pay every month for them, to dump that. So I think the garbage shouldn't be in the problem because they would have to have their own garbage bin to put the garbage in.
And that was my point, especially with the garbage or food truck court. And if you don't know this, I think everybody knows this, but every property owner in the city of South Haven pays the garbage tax. However, only the residents get garbage pickup. All commercial properties have to pay for garbage removal on top of that,
Except downtown.
That's right. Okay.
depending on what size of container. You know, they don't get like a reduction, so.
No, you're right. That's, and that again, that's.
So
gonna be-
all commercial properties subsidize residential garbage disposal.
Yeah, that's going to be part of our discussion, because my vision is that food trucks running all over this town and park them wherever they want. Garbage, there's going to be designated areas, designated times. We've got a lot of work to do.
I don't think we really want the wild, wild west of food trucks in town, so.
Chuck wagons.
So what I was saying, what spearheaded this was a request for a year-round vending. So that's the first thing, and I think from what I've heard tonight, the board is at least interested in proceeding with that. And the next part of whether or not to expand what's already allowed is the real discussion topic, and it almost sounds short-term rental-ish
It is.
with that discussion. So to go forward on this, staff already put together a preliminary draft document, and what would happen is we'd say, yeah, okay, everything looks good in here except for the fill in the blanks, and then that would get noticed, and you'd have an official public hearing to see how far this draft document gets. Now, I guess we can give staff more direction on this right now, if you like the language as is, if you think parts need to be worked upon. Or, you know, between now and the next meeting, if you have additional input to this ordinance, because I've only read through it once, because I wasn't sure what the discussion, where it would head. But I can take a closer look with a fine-tooth comb, as I'm sure you would like to, and compare it to the current one that we have on the books. And I am pretty sure that the reason this was first introduced, you know, where you could have food trucks was because, and I'll use the yurt as an example. We didn't have language for or against being able to have a yurt in town.
That's correct, yeah.
And it was the same thing with food trucks, and because of that, they weren't allowed at any of the festivals. And that was the bridge gap for having them at the festivals.
Tim, I concur with what you said. I see it as a two-step process. I do think there'd probably be a pretty quick general consensus about the time limitation. That one could be handled quickly, and we can spend our time on the other yellow space, which is going to be the interesting discussion in terms of, okay, how would that look like? Where would we allow it? And how would we restrict it?
I think the essence of our conversation is going to center around what we heard today from our audience.
Absolutely.
I think they represent all of the talking points that I think are really important for us, and really good ideas as well as consideration for sites. So I appreciate that.
And I also want to bring up section 1444 B, which is mobile food vending unit means a vehicle or other structure, maybe a cart. Now, I say cart because we've had a lot of discussions about golf carts. And, you know, this gets more complicated as we keep looking at it, but you could have 50 golf carts with coolers on them running around supplying, you know, like out on the golf course. So
I hadn't thought
there's
about
another
that.
thing to think about.
There's another one.
What?
At lakefront communities have burger boats.
Burger boats.
Oh, going up and down the river, and we might want to address that while
We
we're at it.
we can give that part to the Harbor Commission. So make note of that. That needs to go to the Harbor Commission. All right, so anything else we can say to this discussion tonight before we move on?
Just if they could take a look at adjacent communities up and down the coast that have, what are they doing about garbage cleanup? What is their approach, their approaches to that?
You had mentioned between now and the next meeting, we could communicate. I've got lots of ideas. I did a bunch of homework on this.
Mhm.
Can I just send those copy you, copy staff.
Well, my intention with that would be you to look through this preliminary draft, and if you have language changes you would like to add to it, that you could suggest it. I would discourage you sending like a volume of, here's some ideas. I would ask you to be a little more specific with
Okay.
how you'd like this amended.
Okay.
But I would suggest that the ideas could incorporate some of the suggestions that you're finding. So what I'm saying is that, I mean, even here in our audience, we have all sorts of ideas of where we could place these and how they can be. So, you know, I think that helps the thinking through what we have to eventually decide as far as, is there going to be zoning, as there is, or sites that are allowed, where will they be? So I do think that would be helpful.
And I'd like to keep it as simple as possible. I'd like to avoid things like overlays. You know, if you're gonna do it, say, hey, these zoning districts, yes, these no, or all of them, but don't get too complicated, and, because we've already seen what happens with that, with like short-term rental, and you're talking distancing, and just all those things that came out. And this shouldn't be too complicated.
It might be.
If I could be so bold, location obviously is critical.
Right, you gotta follow the rules. You can come up to the podium, state your name.
Trevor Brooks, 429 Cherry Street. Location is obviously critical, and you guys have brought up all of the considerations and stuff. One of the other things you do have to consider is food safety. Because again, what I've learned from in Texas, and part of the reason why they only do.
Actually, we don't have to consider food safety. That would be more on city council. We're
Okay,
just
fair
considering
enough.
where this goes.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? Staff, is it good enough for now? Do you have enough feedback, or do you need anything more specific?
I think that's good for now. We can continue the conversation next time.
Okay, now, are we expecting in January, we'd be looking to approve a draft?
I don't think so. I think we're going to need to have another discussion of the zoning districts, and then fastest case would be public hearing in February, I would think.
I think what we can work on between now and January is staff can look to try to gather some information where some other similar communities in the state, how they're regulating this type of use, as well as what locations they may be allowed, and that might be able to help inform further discussion at the next meeting.
Because I assume the plan is that this should be moved, and I probably want to, if anything's going to happen by May 1st, right?
Probably.
The new tourist season.
Ideally, would want to, so the existing ordinance will come back into effect April 1, because that's when people can get their licenses, if you could
April
get
1.
something through by April 1, but that may or may not be possible, depending on
Okay.
the complexity.
As a Commissioner Griffin, that's exactly what I would hope the staff would do for us. You know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. What's best practices? What can we learn from people that are doing this in as like a condition as we can find? Now, obviously, we're not going to study Chicago, but
Absolutely. We've
Grand Haven, Ludington, St. Joe.
Absolutely.
Okay. So tentatively, we're putting a April 1st target date on this if we can, but yeah, that's probably stretching it. 3 meetings, 3 meetings. January, February, March, because April 1st comes before our next meeting. Won't be able to. Okay, we'll just work at it and see where we can get it done. All right, can I move on to item 10?
Yes, sir.
All right. Item 10, it's the marijuana safety compliance facility ordinance discussion.
I'll do the same thing as last time. Hand it over to Nick, who can go in a lot more detail. But the real short introduction is New Age Laboratories, a local business out in the business park behind Walmart, has asked the city to consider amending the current ordinances regarding marijuana, specifically to allow adult use marijuana safety compliance facilities in the marijuana business overlay zone. This was brought before City Council. They had some discussion and requested that the Planning Commission consider this. And I'll have Nick go ahead and go over a little bit of the details and more nuance.
Sure. So in 2019, the city council, with the recommendation of the planning commission, established a marijuana overlay zone on the east side of the city and approved only one of the roughly 10 uses that are allowed under state law, that being the medical component of safety compliance facility, which is a laboratory that does quality and consistency testing for marijuana. That applicant is, as the state, my understanding is that the market is pretty quickly shifting from medical to recreational throughout the state, and to prepare for that shift, the applicant is requesting the ability to test recreational marijuana. They've represented that their operations would be identical to what they are now. It would just be a difference in the businesses that they would be serving. One thing to note is that, I believe it was in the November election of 2019, there was a citizen petition to prohibit all 6 types of of recreational marijuana businesses in the city. That initiative passed at that election. Because of that, the city was unable to amend that provision for a period of 1 year. Under the charter, anything passed by initiative petition has to remain in place as is for 1 year, can't be amended or repealed. That 1 year has now passed. It's been over 2 years since that proposal. The city would have the power to authorize one or more types of adult use marijuana businesses if it wished to do so. This specific proposal is only for one of the 6 types, and that being the testing facility component. I think that's.
And if I can add to that, City Council was pretty specific that they're only requesting the Planning Commission consider adult use marijuana safety compliance facilities, and that's at the request of this local business.
Another thing to add is when we were looking at this in 2019, we were told, and I think confirmed, that there were only like 6 of these facilities in the state. I imagine there's probably a handful more now, but this is not something where you're going to see one on every block. This is a pretty specialized business that serves a broad number of businesses. Probably this would be approval for single use.
So basically, they're currently allowed to do the medical marijuana testing, but now they want to increase that testing to also cover the recreational.
Correct.
In the petition you referred to, that was a vote, correct, on the ballot?
Correct.
Referendum,
So to also extend it to recreational, they will be doing the same type of testing on the marijuana as they are doing. So it's as much of a safety thing as well as an ingredient piece to it?
Yes, they
And the business.
basically do the labeling, is my understanding. They the strength, the additives, all of that type of thing.
It's the same thing other businesses do for pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
And it's, we've had the opportunity to talk to Scott before. He's come before us. And his operation would not vary hardly at all. They're doing the same tests. It's just a different destination for the product they're testing. Again, there's going to be very small amounts on site. It's a no-brainer to me.
I think one thing that's noteworthy about it wouldn't change their operation. I think there actually has been some contemplation that if allowed to do this, they would be able to expand their business and increase their operation.
But
I should have said it's not going to change their operating procedures.
Correct. It would be the same.
They're doing the same work.
Services and practices, but
at the same location.
Correct.
And those are good jobs.
All right, so what do you want to do? Do you want to move forward with this or drop it? Because you also have to consider that vote that was taken.
Right. Is there going to be a public hearing on this?
There would need to be, yes.
Yeah.
So if Planning Commission is interested, we would do a draft ordinance. It would be very simple ordinance, I think, just removing a line or two that prohibits the recreational and bring it back for a public hearing on the proposed ordinance.
Yeah, I'd like to move ahead and let the public speak out on it. So.
I agree.
So I was in the minority of city council on this, in that because of the voter initiative, I felt that when the voters probably voted to ban recreational use marijuana facilities in the city of South Haven, I don't think they meant that it would only be for 2 years. So I was against sending this particular thing to Planning Commission, and I'm still not in favor of going forward with this, but that's just my opinion, and that's based on what I think the voters told us back in 2019, so.
Yeah, I also think that the voters weren't referring to testing either. They were talking about recreational distribution of it. They weren't talking about testing. They weren't talking about the science.
No, not talking about consuming it.
Yeah, they were talking about the selling and the consumption of it. And like Mike said, I think how they go about doing their business isn't going to change at all. They will be doing more of it, but they'll just be testing the products and labeling. And I think that's something that, does not, the spirit of what the voters wanted is still there.
I would agree with that assessment. It is more of a political question than a business that's already going on, that's already been approved. It's just expanding that to include the language recreational testing versus medical testing. So, anyway, this is a non-actionable item. It's more of a straw poll vote than anything, and I've heard out of our slim count here tonight of actual members, we're missing 3. I think you have consensus to at least bring the draft to the Planning Commission, and we can put it up for a vote. And maybe we'll get some further public comment, especially how people voted in that. Maybe they'll confirm what you have to say, because I don't know. I've never heard it. I heard all 6 were no. All 6 categories of marijuana.
Well, and I think too, as part of the process, we've got to give Scott a chance to come in and address us again.
Well, we know he's probably going to say, I can add another lab technician, and, don't deny me that to make my business bigger, and all legitimate, for sure. But people did take the time to put a petition together, and it was voted on, and like George said, there wasn't a lot of people don't realize that these they're only good for like a year or 2, and then they're almost sunsetted, so they probably didn't realize that. Otherwise, they'd have brought it up again the last election. But it's more of a political question than
It is, but because it is, the body politic deserves an opportunity to speak out on it. And I'm suggesting to you that conditions have changed dramatically in 2 years. Bangor hasn't turned into a heroin den. Saugatuck is doing just fine. And the marijuana distribution business is very robust in South Haven.
I wouldn't know.
Unfortunately, I do.
All right. So you got marching orders for that, right? Okay. Let's keep going. It's almost 9:30. Meeting dates. Agenda item 11, Planning Commission will be asked to consider following meeting dates for 2022. January 6th, February 3rd, March 3rd, April 14th, May 5th, June 2nd, July 7th, August 4th, September 1st, October 6th, November 3rd, and December 1. So those dates work for everybody next year? Look at your calendar.
Yeah.
Already did? Yep. Want a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the dates for 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the 2022 dates. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. All right. Commission member and staff comments, training report. Okay, staff comments. Who goes first?
I have no comments, other than. I'm sorry, Marcia. As a lot of you know, tonight is Marcia's last planning commission meeting here. She's going to be retiring at the end of the month. So I just wanted to thank you, Marcia, for all the help you've given me over the last 2.5 to 3 years.
Do we get to vote on that?
Yeah,
Your vote doesn't count.
I do have a few updates or comments for the Planning Commission. We'll try to make this as quick as I can. First off, I just want to say in advance, thank you all for your patience. I know you all are aware that Travis Sullivan, the zoning administrator, has moved on to a new position, and we wish him the best. Brad and I are going to do the best we can to hold down the fort for the immediate future. And we are being pulled pretty thin right now with a number of exciting projects coming up. So just want to tell you all, thank you for being patient with us. We are going to continue to do the best we can, and if there's anything we can do to support you all in that, just let us know. Secondly, if you all noticed, we are going to start to include with commission member and staff comments on the agenda a training report out. This is a requirement, for the lack of a better term, of our RRC certification. It's to add on planning and development related boards an opportunity for commission members to share any trainings or resources that they've found over the last month, and to be able to share that out with the other commissioner board members. I don't really think in practice it's going to change from what we've done in terms of if a planning commissioner attends a training, sharing a little bit about what they learned with the rest of the group. But just if anyone noticed that's why that's going to start to appear on the agenda. I do have a question, or looking for some input. We did recently receive a PUD application from the Habitat Company regarding the Overton development. According to the deadline established in the purchase agreement that was approved by City Council. I'm looking for some input if the Planning Commission would be willing to have a special meeting in the next couple weeks before the new year, before the January regular meeting, to do a preliminary review of some of this information to make sure that staff is providing what you all need to consider this appropriately moving forward. So I'd like to throw out to all of you, recognizing that we don't have 3 here tonight, but is there any chance that December 16th at the normal time, so that's a Thursday in 2 weeks, the Planning Commission would be willing to have a special meeting to do a preliminary review of that material?
One quick question, the agenda would be restricted to that single item?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be.
Well, that's.
That's correct. We did contemplate it being restricted to that item with the understanding of we're getting into the holiday season. We want to be as respectful as we can of everyone's time, particularly family obligations coming up, in the later weeks of December. But we are looking to also make sure that we're recognizing that this is going to be a pretty busy item and there's going to be a lot of things, I think, for the Planning Commission to consider. I know we have a lot of public interest in this project, so we want to make sure we have plenty of opportunity, not only for the public, but particularly for the Planning Commission to be able to digest the material that's being put before them.
There's no action items here. Do you need a quorum or?
Well, we would need a quorum to have a special meeting.
Okay.
But really, I'm just looking from all of you tonight if anyone is really adamantly opposed at us getting that,
So basically,
scheduled.
you're looking at this would be the original unveil of what was submitted to the city.
Correct.
And that would be everybody's, they'd only give a couple weeks, but they would get it out there in the public, and then we'd have our meeting another meeting a couple weeks later. Is it expected that you'd want us to make the final at that one, or we'd have probably another one after that?
I think
So we're looking
I
at
think that could
3
happen a
meetings.
couple different ways. I think we're contemplating, bringing it before you all on December 16th, the first opportunity for you all to review it, to discuss it, to give some feedback to the applicant on things that you would like to see from them, as well as if there's any additional work you'd like staff to do prior to the January meeting. At the January meeting, assuming things go well on the 16th, I think we would contemplate hosting a public hearing that meeting, and at that time, Planning Commission could decide if they were ready to vote on a recommendation to City Council or whether or not they need additional time to review. But either of those could be an option.
Personally, I'm more interested if we do this on the 16th of just gathering public input rather than our input, and get a chance to hear what everybody says and give us a chance to think about it for another couple weeks before coming back for a regularly scheduled meeting. That's how I look at it.
Well, the only thing I would be worried about on that is sending something out to the public that's not fully vetted out by Planning Commission, and then all of a sudden, the public gets up in arms over something that we would never have approved in the first place.
Well, what we're going to be showing, we haven't approved. It's always like that.
And maybe I heard wrong, but what I thought I heard from Griffin was was a step to avoid more schedule slippage.
I think that's a fair way to describe this. I think, as all of you are aware, or George in particular, being on City Council, we are working with some deadlines that have been established per a purchase agreement. Obviously, obtaining approval from the Planning Commission as well as other relevant governmental approvals is one of the conditions in that agreement. But yes, with those deadlines, we are trying to make sure we are keeping this moving as appropriately as we can. And part of that is by, now that we have had a formal submission, to bring it before you all for a preliminary look. No action would be expected at that time. And then it could be brought back for, more formal consideration at the regularly scheduled January meeting. And at that point, you all could consider whether or not you need more meetings to consider it, which would be absolutely appropriate, and that could be done. Or if at that point you've had what you needed, you could consider moving it forward to City Council.
Since you've seen the plan, and Brad, you've looked at it, on cursory look, are there going to be a lot of requests that we have to do, I don't know, like a variance, or did they follow our code pretty well?
For the most part, they followed the code well, but it is a PUD, and they are going to be asking for some, some deviations from the RM1 district.
I think when you talk about number, I mean, that's so relative. At our cursory review, and I'll be as blunt as I can, we've had it for 48 hours. I mean, we have not had it for very long.
But that's what's going
We-
to slow this down, is everything that gets outside the box that's been created.
Without a doubt. And I think the PUD is the tool which could allow that to happen. Obviously, that's with the Planning Commission and then the city's council review. I think the couple waivers that are being requested are the ones that everyone's been pretty aware of or at least contemplating to this date. And now that there's a formal application, the Planning Commission has the ability to start to really flesh those out. We have a very complete application at this point, and are just trying to see and not make your meeting any later tonight, but just make sure there's no strong opposition from the Planning Commission if we try to put a special meeting together here in the next couple weeks.
And that's probably the other thing is the city entered into an agreement, and without looking at the agreement right now and comparing it to what they've submitted, are there things that even if this commission said, you know what, we don't like that, it doesn't fit the code, that because of that agreement, there's nothing we can do about it?
No, the deal is contingent on planning commission approval. The city council hasn't waived your authority in any way.
Excellent.
That would be bad.
Waive the authority, that was the phrase.
And my
I was
understanding, Mr. Chair, is that was very intentional by the city council, is they wanted to make sure that a project of this scale goes through all of the regular and appropriate processes that any other project would need to go through.
Okay, good job, George. All right, so December 16th.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you require anything for right around the holidays?
Is that our Christmas party too?
That's what I was wondering. Cakes and cookies.
Well, thank you. I will see what I can do about cake and cookies. And then the very last one I had, Brad tried to steal my thunder a little bit, but do want to make sure we recognize Marcia. We do have a special surprise for her in the back as well, that we'll see if we can have come out right now. And just really want to make sure that, at one of her last meetings, she gets the recognition she deserves, and in front of a board that I know she cares a lot about and puts a lot of effort into working with all of you. I'm going to force the hand a little bit, but we need to give her some attention.
Good job.
Mr. Chair, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Nick, anything from you in the attorney world?
No further comments.
Okay. Who wants to go? Where'd you guys start last month?
Yours.
Easy? You want to go first?
Sure. I don't know why you're leaving as soon as I get here, but I hope that has nothing to do with me. But you're an awesome lady. Thank you for everything you've done for the city, and enjoy your time. Yes, yes. Hey, I got a couple that you can take on if you like. But again, the staff, you guys did a great job. Appreciate all of the work that you've done, and appreciate the public comments today, and I appreciate every one of the commissioners here. And I guess I'm looking forward to December 16th.
All right. Ron?
Nothing in particular. Thank you, staff. It was a lot of work there. And Nick, or whoever did the food truck thing, seems, I don't know, what is that? Just a few weeks you had to work on it. Really good work. I'm looking forward to that particular project. It should be fun and open up some doors. Marcia, thank you. That's all I have.
Marcia, I was trying to remember when I was on LDFA, you were also recording at that time?
Yeah, I've been here since 2008.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah, I've seen your work throughout the years and have admired it greatly and really appreciate the time, the effort, and the precision and the perfection that you put into your your remarks and your minutes. And I do hope that you will enjoy those grandkids. And yeah, I'm going to miss you, though. I really thanks for everything you've done.
Once again, thanks, Marcia. I got to say thank you to Marcia for the Board of Public Utilities meeting on Monday. So this will be, again, thank you. Thank you to staff. You guys did a great job. I certainly hope we are able to fill Travis's shoes here quickly to help alleviate some of your burden. And I just want to say thank you to this body. I agree with Michael that the Planning Commission really does the heavy lifting for City Council, and I'm grateful that we have a dedicated commission that does such a great job, because it makes my job on City Council a lot easier. Thank you.
So nice to hear those comments. It's interesting. Right before I got here, I spent 3 hours with a corporation who was discussing the power of gratitude as a competitive advantage. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So, Marcia, I'd like to add my thanks as well. It's amazing what you've done since you were a high school intern in 2008 to where you've gone. But yeah, I hope you do accept I know you do. You accept our heartfelt thank yous. It's amazing how hard you work. And I was just getting used to speaking into the mic.
You have to remember me whenever you forget.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I would echo all the comments that have been made. I was here at the city when Marcia was first hired, and she's done a tremendous job all these years. And it really is a tough job, because on one hand, you have people that think she should transcribe every single word they say. And then on the other hand, there's some people that want her to interpret what she says and clean it up. And it's not just this board, it's other boards that she's been involved with. And as having been a secretary for some small organizations, that's a difficult task. And when you have to go back and look up something that was done 3 meetings ago, I've found her minutes to serve that purpose very well. So I appreciate your work, and we'll be sorry to see you go.
I've enjoyed the job very much, and it's been a challenge at times. I'll miss it, but I'm looking forward to time to quilt and spend with my grandkids.
Okay.
Any transcripts?
And then I like having Brad. I like Travis. Brad, he's very capable, and I like having him here. So we're not missing anything, where a lot of times you'd have a vacancy for a while for a very tough position, and Brad does a great job. All right. So with that, I guess I will see you guys before Christmas, right? It's the 16th, so we'll be back here again doing the heavy lifting. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to close the meeting. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.